funny about
How
that.
did Oscar Wilde ever get laid? Hi, welcome to the Say Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker.
Oh God, it's me, Sejohn Sarwick. I was once again caught off guard by the fact that we were recording.
Dude, it was too good a line. All right, behind the curtain, I definitely just said, how did Oscar Wilde ever get laid? And then I'm like, that should have been recorded. So I hit record on my jam box.
Nice, excellent.
And now you're here in the episode with Sejohn all thrown off.
Yeah, is that how we were envisioning this? That they're in the episode with us?
Yeah, no.
Come on in.
Come into the Say Report headquarters.
And come play with us.
I'm gonna change into a cardigan and make a snappy today.
Oh man.
Oh yes. So welcome to the Say Report. The title of this episode was going to be I Hate Valentines Day, because I went away last week on vacation, and the movies are like the way that you entertain yourself when you're on a cruise ship. And for some ungodly reason, I Hate Valentines Day was a movie that they were showing on board the ship.
Because it was cheap, man. they probably like pulled into port, and there was just like a crate of them sitting around that they couldn't sell, and they were just like, "Well, just shove them into every room, I guess."
I like that you believe that like every room on the ship had a DVD. I mean, they set up like a broadcast network.
Yeah, you come into the room, right? When you've got the towels that are shaped like monkeys, and you've got a copy of I Hate Valentines.
And they're like, "You can take this home.
Please
There's
take
not
this
even
home.
a charge. We'll give you $5 on board credit if you take this copy of I Hate Valentine's Day home with you." And you know what? And I didn't want to kick I Hate Valentine. After watching the movie, I was full of rage, and I'm like, "That's it. That's what this episode is going to be. The next Say Report is going to be me tearing this movie down." And then I did a little bit of research, and it made $5,090 in its opening weekend, and went on to gross $10,060 during its entire time in the box office.
So to be fair, I Hate Valentine's Day, which was the faithful reunion of John Corbett and
Nia Vardalos.
How do you say her name? Yeah, Nia Vardalos. I never know how to say her last name, but since My Big Fat Greek Wedding. But that also came out the same year as what was the other one?
My Life in Ruins. Like, that's the crazy thing.
Which she didn't write or direct that one. She just acts in that one though, right? Isn't I Hate Valentine's Day is like her big writing directing one, but I'm pretty sure My Life in Ruins she just acts in.
That could be it. I did not look that deep into it. Well, because here's the thing. The whole time that I'm watching I Hate Valentine's Day, just before, because I don't want to be mean to it. I said I wasn't going to be mean to it, but I might say stuff that's like snarky. But I would like to say it was made on a $3 million budget, and as of 2013, it made back its budget. So we can talk about I Hate Valentine's Day a little bit, right? It did it in 4 years, guys.
You got your due eventually. I mean, like,
is it the whole time I'm watching the movie? First of all, young Judah Friedlander without the beard from 30 Rock.
Yeah. It's like when you see him in The Wrestler, it completely throws you off, and like you're like, I know that guy, but how do I know that guy? And then at the end, you realize it's Judah Friedlander the whole time.
And it's young Jason Mantzoukas, so much so that I sent Sejohn a picture that I took of my TV to see what his reaction would be to 10 years ago Jason Mantzoukas.
Yeah, I was very thrown off, actually. Again, minus beard. Is that all it takes? Is just like shave the beard and you look 10 years younger?
Apparently, you should try it.
Man.
but yeah, so like there's people in the movie, but the whole time I'm watching the film, I'm trying to be like, was this the follow-up to Connie and Carla? Like, was this the 2007 release? Because it was 2002, Big Fat Greek Wedding, 2005, Connie and Carla, and I'm like, this would make sense as like that junior outing where, you know, maybe it was a script she had kicking around, but they wanted to do something else with her. But
it's also her first time directing, right? Because the other two she just had written and started.
Wrote, yes.
Yeah.
So it's
this is her first time behind the camera too.
Which So thank you for doing that research, because I've been on a cruise ship, so I didn't have internet. I only was able to get the budget information. But that's true. So I was attributing a lot of the problems with the movie. Like, it felt like not even screenwriting 101, but like screenwriting 10. like
Yeah.
remedial screenwriting, because it's
Yes.
so much like, oh, I know that's coming back. Like,
Hmm.
what's happening here? But it could also be the fact that she's a first-time director, so she took like a more remedial script so she could focus on the directing.
It's also her. Not to say that My Big Fat Greek Wedding or even Connie and Carla aren't like stereotypical and formulaic in the way that they are built, but I Hate Valentine's Day feels so shallow compared to those other two. Like there's like My Big Fat Greek Wedding is. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it, but I think it's a beautiful little like romantic comedy.
Oh, it's
Like
great.
it's
It's a
a
great movie.
right. I mean, like the way that the family is incorporated into the story and the whole idea of her culture and like everything about it, it just has a heft behind it that a good indie like comedy should, right? And so there's a reason why it hit as big as it did. And then Connie and Carla was one of those ones that like you loved it or you hated it. It's a fine for a follow up, right? It's Kevin Smith's Mallrats, right? Like that's what it is.
It's exactly
Um,
that.
yeah. So like her chance then to do something like as a director, I just don't know why she chooses I Hate Valentine's Day. Like of all of her scripts, if it's true that it's one that she had kicking around, like that might excuse the fact that it is like it feels like it was written pre My Big Fat
Right.
Greek
I couldn't
Wedding.
find any
But like, why
my
make it?
that's the thing. Is like we sat down and we talked about it, my mother and I, and it's like this has to have been like a script that maybe she wrote and had been around for a while, because like it doesn't feel as developed as My Big Fat Greek Wedding at all.
No,
Like
not
My
in the
Big Fat
least.
Greek Wedding, yes, it's formulaic. It's very clearly a rom com, but
Yeah.
it's like explicit in I Hate Valentine's Day. Like she starts off by saying, "I love Valentine's Day," and it's like, well, I know the title of the movie.
Yeah.
So, and it's Valentine's Day right now, so I bet a year's gonna go by.
Oh my God.
Like, it's just all
Yeah.
this stuff where it's like, I wanted to turn away from the movie so badly as I started watching it, but then I'm like, I have nothing else to do. And, like, I might as well, like, brave through it. I could be completely wrong. It could just be, like, me feeling this way because, you know, it is that formulaic setup, and then it will really surprise me. And then, like, kamikaze karaoke happened, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Oh my God.
Though I would
Date
love.
number 3, right?
Yes, date number 3. It has to be something adventurous. Did you watch this movie?
I've seen I Hate Valentine's Day, but in my defense, quote unquote, I saw it when it came out. You got to understand, like I was saying, like My Big Fat Greek Wedding was a huge deal, and David Duchovny is in Connie and Carla, isn't he?
Yes,
Isn't
he
he the
is.
love interest?
Yeah,
Right. So like my mom, first of all, because we loved My Big Fat Greek Wedding, but also David Duchovny being in anything, I guarantee you that we saw that in theaters. So I remember those, and I'm pretty sure that of my own accord, because at this point we were in college, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw I Hate Valentine's Day on a whim on my own because I'd seen those other ones that I loved so much. And I Hate Valentine's Day left no impression on me. Let's put it that way. I can't even tell you that I don't like it. I really honestly don't remember much about it. I remember story beats, and I love John Corbett. So
I
like,
love John Corbett too. But like the weirdest thing is you're watching this movie that has John Corbett and Nia Vardalos in it, and you're like, I know both of you can act because
Yeah.
I've seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding where both of you are acting.
well, and you know,
What
stuff that even
happened?
removed from something even removed from the two of them, like him on Sex and the City is like like
Northern Exposure, man. If we're gonna like
Northern Exposure.
he's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
fucking good on Northern Exposure.
But I mean, and she does all sorts of. I mean, she's been working steadily for years. But the big thing now is she's been doing all sorts of really cool like voice work. So things like Star versus the Forces of Evil.
She's her
she's a
mother, right?
yeah, a couple of other characters as
Yeah.
well. But the big one is her mom. Like, so I know that. I mean, she's in Ducktales. Did you know that?
I did not know that she's in DuckTales. I haven't seen this week's episode. I'm an episode behind.
It's not new. It's the Storkyleys episode. She plays Celine,
Oh yeah, I knew that. Well,
which is like a fantastic
yeah,
like
which
role,
is perfect
like this
because
Greek
there's a
for her
Greek
to come in.
goddess.
Yeah.
Yes, I did know that. Oh, I did see that. I was just so nervous that Storky's episode. We haven't talked about the 4 new episodes of DuckTales,
Oh, we need to talk
which
about
we
the
should
DuckTales
definitely
again.
talk
Here's the
about on
thing.
this. Thank you, Nia
We got-
Vardalos, for opening
Got like
this door.
5 months into 2018 without talking about DuckTales. I just want to put that out there.
Well, because there haven't been new episodes
That's
until
true.
May. That's
Yeah,
not
because
that's not
it's
strictly
a
true.
thing.
Because in March you told me wait until May there'll be new episodes.
So
So we're gonna close the door on I Hate Valentine's Day. It's interesting. It's like definitely a movie. If I were teaching a class, I would probably show it. To be completely honest with you,
okay.
because it's one of those things where just because you've made a movie, a lot of people think like I can do it. I've made a movie, but that movie kind of proves that no, don't rest on your laurels.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
even if you've made a movie that made so much money that it was later adapted into a TV series, and then 10 years later has a great sequel come out, that doesn't mean that everything you touch is going to be gold. Like
Yeah,
know
and
your
I gotta say,
limitations
like,
and know that you have to work at it.
and she was in such a prime position when she was making that movie. Like, I cannot understand why this is the one she chose to make, because like she's at just the right point in her indie career where she had the cachet to get like early like Rachel Dratch, Jason Mantzoukas, right? Like she's able to get these
Zoe
people
Kazan, like
in,
all these people
right?
who are like now the screenwriters of indie films are
Well,
in
right,
this
and like,
movie.
but and also like they're out of Second City, like they're recognizable because we've seen them in the background of things, probably like popped up on SNL once or twice, right? Like we know these people, but they're not so big that they're impossible to get to be in your movie, right? So like she's clearly at that prime moment for making that next step in her career, and the step she chooses to take is I Hate Valentine's Day. That's what made it so disappointing for me. But again, that was also the same year as My Life in Ruins, and I feel like for a lot of the world, like this movie got buried under My Life in Ruins,
Yeah,
which came out that year, which was again her just doing a Greek character and her kind of really digging into her heritage,
and Richard
which
Dreyfuss. I mean,
and
like
Richard Dreyfuss, yeah, yeah. I forget who the director actually is on that, because I want to look that up now, because I feel like it was like not Gary Marshall, but somebody in that vein
one
of
of those
like,
Marshalls.
yeah, one of them Marshalls.
All right. Well, while you do that, I'll point out the last thing about I Hate Valentine's Day, and it's a beautiful segue into Ducktales. Ben Schwartz shows up, voice of
There you
Dewey.
go. There you go.
So yeah, so we have gone 5 months without Ducktales. We're sorry or you're welcome. Take your pick. Right. We have plenty of gift bags for both sides. But it's back, and forget that first Storkules episode, which was a great episode. But the episode that like really mattered and means something is the Launchpad episode. I cannot think of the name of right now. The buddy
Oh,
system, the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
BUDDY system,
Hmm.
because there was a terror what flaps in the night. There
Oh,
was the gum that sticks to your shoe. He
dude,
was Darkwing Duck.
it
I
made me so angry. Like when it first started, I lost my crap, and then when they pulled out to reveal that it was just a damn
TV
TV
show in the
show.
world.
But
I would
but
be angry. I would be angry if they didn't get back all of the original voices.
yeah, that's
Like
fantastic.
Megavolt talked, and I'm like, oh my god, I am freaking 8 years old again.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic little reference. And the other thing is that as they kind of went through the episode and the way that they established how Launchpad fits into Gizmo Duck's story, it made me realize that there's actually a lot of potential for what they could do with this, because they kept referencing the actor playing Darkwing, and they kept talking about how he was just older, he was just too old to keep doing it. And like I was just thinking, oh my god, is this leading to Launchpad maybe like leaving the DuckTales crew for a bit to go like hook up with this aging Darkwing Duck like actor, trying to actually like the way that they're setting something up. I'm very interested to see where they're
I
going
would
to
be
go.
very happy if they went like Radioactive Man, the movie on it, where Launchpad gets cast as his like sidekick in a
Right.
movie reboot, and then like even one step further, in the vein of Tony Danza,
Yeah, yeah.
because Tony Danza couldn't remember character names, so he played a lot of characters named Tony.
Yeah.
That's something that I believe. I'm not trying to drag Tony Danza through the mud. I'm just saying it was a long time before he played another character in 2000 Noah. Right? He played a lot of characters named Tony.
Yeah. Oh man.
So it'd be funny if like Launchpad, they give him some character name and then they're like, we're just gonna call you Launchpad. So like to check off that box again. But another nice thing about it is that a lot of who Launchpad is influenced by him watching the show,
Right, right,
which
right.
was another really nice thing. Like
Yeah, I mean him having the little bobblehead in the car and stuff like
right,
that.
and
Like,
the fact
yeah,
that he
it was.
crashes because he's all about getting dangerous. Like it was a nice way to fit it into the world. Though I am disappointed that Saint Canard does not exist in a parallel to Duckburg with this superhero. But
Yeah.
Gizmo Duck is there, and I would also believe it 100%. They packed a lot into that episode.
They really did,
It,
and like in a good way. Like it was
yeah,
just
it
such
was.
a really good nostalgic like episode that was just stuff full of like stuff from the old show. I loved it.
Yeah, it wasn't overwhelming at all. It just was like, oh yeah, these are the things that you would connect together. Like if you
And the
have,
new stuff, like the reveal of this like Elon Musk like character, like really kind of
oh well, no,
leaning into being
he'd
a
been
villain.
before.
Oh no, I know he'd been
Yeah,
introduced
okay.
before, but like introducing him now as a possible like Gizmo, like an anti-Gizmo duck,
Oh, I can't
is
wait until
such
he
a
makes the Gizmo monger.
yeah, man.
I'm so proud I said that.
That's
I'm
so
like,
good. But that's it, right? Like
yeah.
introducing that whole concept for this whole brand new character that they've created for this version of the show. Like I think that worked really well as well.
And well, and also having him steal bulb tech because I love bulb tech, and the one bulb episode that they did with Louis in the money bin was excellent. But then, like once you do that, it's difficult to bring it back together because you know that the bulbs are bad. So why would Gyro go back to the drawing board with them? So to have it be that like it was out there, it was open sourced, and maybe Mark Beeks is going to be exploring bulb tech so that you can have that Iron Man 2 sort of like episode
Yeah,
is
man.
exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, there was so much really good stuff in it, and I mean, like Lin Manuel coming in to do all of that stuff for the voice work was really good, and like so even from a like production standpoint, I could totally like get into this episode. Yeah, no,
And
DuckTales
the
has been
and the
kind of
thing that I
phenomenal.
really love about DuckTales is they understand that less is more. Like
Mm.
just having Dewey be there, and it is established that Dewey and Launchpad are the tightest of the nephews. So it's just like this is good because Dewey would be involved in this. Having
Right,
all
right.
three of them, it would feel overwhelming. It would feel more overwhelming than having Darkwing Duck, Gizmo Duck, and Bulb Tech come back in one episode.
Yeah, there. God damn it. But there is something to be said also for the fact that Uncle Scrooge keeps losing track of these damn kids, though. Like we were just talking about with the Hercules episode of Webby and Huey, right? Or
Dewey,
the two that run
Dewey,
off together. No,
Webby, and
Dewey.
Dewey.
Right? Yeah. Webby and Dewey just disappear, and like it goes completely unmentioned until they show back up. To which Scrooge goes, "Oh, there you are." Like, hey, listen, Doctor Who. Like, you can't be losing your companions like this.
The
Like.
best, the best part about that is that like totally that oh there you are is like I was concerned. You were
But
concerned.
but not so much that I was gonna, ask these Greek gods to be like, hey, where are my kids?
Yeah, that Hercules episode was fantastic.
Hmm.
I just love a good Donald episode. Donald being in
That's
DuckTales again
yeah.
is great.
Oh man. Well, and I like the idea of exploring Donald Duck as like a complex character, like the way that he works with Storkules, the way that he has all these feelings about Della and what happened there. Like he's not just Donald Duck. He's not just goofy there, butt of the joke, just to get angry and yell at people. Also, he has that fantastic moment when he's walking away and then he hears the boys call for help, and that's what makes him like run to the rescue, right? Like there was just a lot of really good interesting stuff about a character that I mean, up until this iteration of him, I don't know if I ever really thought about like the heroic complexities of Donald Duck.
Yeah, I mean the most
Aside from maybe Kingdom Hearts, right?
well where he never heals you.
and
Fuck you,
and
Donald.
and all he does is get really angry and yell. Like he's even in those games, all he is the yelly, angry character.
Yeah,
He's nothing more than that, right?
it's more like the most nuanced portrayal of Donald Duck was in the Donald Duck comics.
Mm.
Like if you want to talk about well what like I will really like remind I gotta find these. They're definitely in my house somewhere. Do you remember at like the supermarket there'd be like the weekly book that you could buy, and if you bought like all the volumes you'd have a whole set?
Mhm. Yeah, you'd have like you basically get like pages out of an issue, right? And then if you bought like the seven, you'd have a good 7-page story arc or something.
No, no, not like Disney Adventures. Those were great too. The Disney Adventure comics were some of the best. They did
Yeah,
like this crossover event with a jewel that had like a snake demon stuck in it. That
weird.
like, well, like so like Tailspin found it.
Oh,
Like they
right,
were
right,
out in the
right.
world
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
found it, and then like it took over Rebecca, and this whole thing, and then they separated the jewel from its like locket piece.
And then like the
And then the
Rescue Rangers
Rescue
picked it up,
Rangers,
right?
they
Yeah.
found it like Fat Cat was trying to steal it from a museum, and then like Dale took it and wrapped it around his back, so the snake god took him over, and then they brought it into Goof Troop, where the whole thing, and then Scrooge McDuck had the setting for it, and if the two were combined, then the snake god would come back. So then that ended with the snake god coming back, and then it was up to Darkwing Duck to stop him. Like, that is one of the greatest crossovers ever that I have ever experienced. Like,
Oh man,
the greatest crossover since the Disney Adventures Disney Afternoon crossover. Hashtag Infinity War. But no, it's more like, it was like encyclopedias, right? Where like the A volume would be available, and then if you go back the next week, the B volume would be available.
oh okay, all right.
Like supermarkets used to do that kind of thing, and Disney stories, like, because Disney was going through their golden age in the 90s, they had like an 18 volume set of like picture books. But like, rather than just tell like Mickey stories or stuff like that, it was more like it's sort of like the Ninja Turtle like picture books that came out that were 100% adaptations from the comics. Like the like already the Archie Ninja Turtle comic books, so like geared more towards kids, somehow even more sanitized for like child consumption.
Hey man, that Archie's no joke. I've seen that Riverdale shit.
Yeah. Oh, dude, and then that one became like the most adult Ninja Turtles comic ever. But we'll get there if we ever do like a full big Devon goes crazy about Ninja Turtles episode.
Because we've never done that before.
I don't think we have done one that's all about me blanching about the Ninja Turtles, have we?
It's just turned into that. That's all.
Yeah, okay, it's fair. But it's so it was like sanitized stories from the like Carl Banks comic books about Mickey and all them. And number 7 was all about Donald Duck and Gander, Lucky Gander Goose, who's already shown up in the show. And I'm just like, this is awesome. Like, reading that as a kid, I'm like, this is great, because look at Donald not just being a jerk. And then, like, as life went on, like, older relatives and older friends of my family gave me a bunch of old Scrooge and Donald comic books. And I'm yeah, he is this nuanced character. So you can see in the new Ducktales show how much influence is being taken from those old Carl Banks comics.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Man. Yeah, like, it's gorgeous.
Even with the boys, the one thing that I am waiting for, the thing that will take, like, Ducktales is already like the greatest right now as far as I'm concerned, but we'll even push it higher into an upper echelon. Will be if they introduce Fooey Duck, like a clone of the boys somehow happens, like be it magic or science, and they make reference of Fooey, because that's what would happen whenever. Like, a lot of times in the comics, 4 nephews would be illustrated.
That's amazing.
Like, if you type in Fooey Duck into Google, you'll find like a whole repository of times that happened in those old comics.
Awesome. That's fantastically weird. That's good stuff, man.
Yes. And then since we're gushing about DuckTales now, right?
Yep.
The golf course episode with freaking Pinkie Pie as a Selkie. Trying to kill the DuckTales the whole time.
I think that was just what we're referring to the team now as. They're the DuckTales.
Yeah, team right? DuckTales, that's their name, right? Their team DuckTales?
Yeah, man. Oh, God. Yeah, the whole show is just something that, like, I cannot believe how well it's come together. And I can totally see why Disney wanted to snatch it up and bring it on to mainline Disney. Like, I think they feel like they've been missing out on some of the really big stuff that's that's caught on Disney XD. So like their whole thing of like putting it off for a couple of months so that they could move house was probably smart for them. I'm just so happy it's back.
I also want to believe that they banked a shit ton of episodes.
Well, right. I think in all of that, they must have at least put like 6 or 7 away, right? Because they were supposed to be on straight every week for like 2 months. They weren't.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like, that's the thing. I really hope that they banked them, because like I think back to when we were kids and it would be like 6 different animation houses all in like Southern Korea doing episodes of shows, and like our shows sucked. our shows, like if you go back and watch them, they weren't great. Like there's inconsistencies between episodes because of which animation house was like just cranking out the drawings. And a lot of like Ninja Turtles, again, I'll use it as a reference because that's the one I've done the most like research into, or the other people have done the most research into, and I've just happened upon articles about it where like you watch an episode and it's like, oh, and then they literally just changed the name of the bad guy and this is the same episode. Like they sent out this script to all 6 houses and were like, animate this.
Animate this, but change the look of the baddies. Make this bad guy have a red helmet. Make this bad guy have a blue helmet. Like, we'll be good. Yeah, man. I mean, like, but that's back in the day when we weren't quite sure what American television was going to need as far as animation went, right? Because if you look at the way that like Japan goes in that moment, what Japan ends up doing in that moment is they end up doing like the new episode a day nonsense, and they have to, or like at least like a new episode a week, which means that they're cranking out 52 episodes a year, and that's insane. Which is why when you watch anime, you get all those things like reused shots or like really lengthy stills and things like that. Is because they're just trying anything they can to spread out the material that they have, right? And I mean, like, that's nothing new to Disney. Like looking at that sort of exact same stuff happening in our old shows, you could go back and look at things like there's comparison shots from old Disney movies of being like, hey, this shot, this shot in Jungle Book is just this.
Robin Hood is
Robin
100%.
Right.
Robin Hood is created from former assets. Like they were cleaning house and they're like, we need to reuse these assets.
Yeah,
but Robin Hood's fucking great. I love Robin Hood.
Well, and that's the trick, right? Is what Disney, and that's one of the things about Disney that nobody ever really thinks about. The business side of animation. He wasn't just good at drawing things. He wasn't just good at it as a creator. He was also really, really good as like a sculptor, as the way that he could take work that already existed and then just very easily turn that into 5 new projects. It allowed him to, as a business, just keep cranking stuff out. And so, like, not only was his work really beautiful, he also knew how to handle it in a way that basically just steamrolled everybody else in the business. It's why Disney is the animation house in this country. There really isn't another one that stands up against Disney. There's plenty of them out there, but none of them stand a chance against the monster, right? Like, and again, the reason for that is because Walt Disney himself just knew how to do that kind of stuff in a way that nobody else did. Because you're right, like Robin Hood ends up coming out, it's completely reused stuff. It's just animal shots and character designs from past films and stuff. But at the end of the day, there's a ton of people out there that I bet listening to this show are willing to say Robin Hood is like their favorite animated Disney movie.
Robin Hood was one of my favorites, and it sucked because I refused to watch the end because I was so afraid of fire.
Oh,
so
man.
and that fire is so real. I'm just like, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
I'm so scared. And then I burnt myself, and I'm like, oh, fire's fun.
I had a videotape from Disney. This is like not bootleg or
Everybody
anything.
had this videotape from
that
Disney.
had the cut that had like scenes from the movies just kind of interspersed, and it would just like change to different scenes. It was basically one of those "hey, put this on to shut the kids up" type movies. Like Disney put a bunch of those out with like sing-alongs or just scenes, right?
Things. Oh,
well,
so good.
So as much as I love Robin Hood, and I have definitely seen the entire thing more than once in my life, I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times in my life. I think I have seen the archery scene from Robin Hood a bazillion times in my life, because right in the middle of that tape was the archery scene from Robin Hood.
Yeah,
and
I am right there with you. It's one of the sing-along songs. It's Robin Hood and Little John. But then, like, for some reason, like, that song is not super long. Like, in the center, they put the whole scene with him dressed as the stork shooting archery.
Exactly.
And then they, like, pick up the song afterwards. Like, that, like, those are my favorite sort of sing-along things, when they're like, we're just going to sum up the movie in a music video. Which is why the end of Sunshine was so fantastic. Because it's all I've ever wanted from movies.
Why don't we do that anymore? No, we lost that 90s action like rap at the end that's about the movie, plus it's doing the entire wrap-up of the movie.
Yeah,
we get to see all of our favorite scenes again.
R.A.P.U.S.
Nice. I see what you did there, and I applaud it.
They're great. I think the last one that I can remember in any movie is Shark Night 3D.
Nice. I
Because
will say that that Deadpool 2 definitely did their version of it this time around,
well,
but
they took the
clearly an
Deadpool
homage to
song and
yeah,
remixed it.
with the banger.
Yeah.
Oh my God. We'll talk about that in a second though.
Oh,
Is there
good,
anything
good.
else that
So
we
you
want to
saw
say about
Deadpool 2.
Disney?
No, I think we're all Disneyed out right here.
Well,
Um,
this isn't actually. This is more of a lateral Disney
this is
move
a
at this
lateral.
point, but
Oh my, well, kinda, sorta. Good. So you saw Deadpool 2.
yeah,
So
man.
even though I've had a whole week and 3 days to get past my problems with it,
All right, talk
they're
to me.
still there. I still
Talk
have
to me,
issues
man.
with Deadpool. Deadpool 2 spoilers are happening right now. If you still haven't seen it, I'm surprised because it beat Infinity War, which means that mostly everybody saw it. And also, but it didn't beat Passion of the Christ. So I mean,
Oh.
like right there, I love that it's Passion of the Christ, then us. It is now Passion of the Christ, Deadpool 2, Deadpool. Like that makes me very happy. Like that part I like business decision things I like. I'll say this about Deadpool 2. I'm gonna do a reverse compliment sandwich where I say
Okay.
good things, and then shitty things.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna say shitty things
That's
and
not
then
quite how the sandwich works, but
whatever,
keep going.
whatever. No, that's just a compliment sandwich. So I will say this: Shatterstar dying was a beautiful scene, and it
I
was
thought that was the part you were upset about. I was about ready to talk to you about how you got to get over Shatterstar dying.
Shatterstar's death was great.
Oh
But if
my
it were just Shatterstar who died, I would have been happy. The fact
God.
that the entire X Force dies in that scene is just like, well, that was kind of lame. I would, and it's because they all die in the same similar way. They all die because we knew it was windy and they knew they were parachuting in, and it's like I just would have loved it if they were all a part of this mission and then were slowly getting picked off, like because they were not ready. The only person prepared for this mission really was Deadpool.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
And Domino.
and
Like we have to
Domino,
be
but
fair
just
about
because she's
the
Domino, her lack
But
of preparation was all she needed.
see, I think the problem is that you're looking at each of their deaths as an individual joke, and you're mad that they're compacted together,
Right.
right? No, I think that the joke is that all of them die at once. Like it was just nonstop
Right.
laughter for that entire
Which
fucking
becomes
scene
the
for me, man.
issue, which becomes my further issue is I feel like jokes went on too long in Deadpool 2. Like when he has the baby legs, everybody got their fucking 5 minutes to riff. And it's like, I'm done with this now. Please move on. And his death scene, I'm never going to see Deadpool 2 again. That is my declaration right now. I like halfway through the movie, I'm like, I'm not feeling this movie as much as I felt the first movie. I'm a little bummed about that, but I bet on a second watching, that'll change. And then the movie screeched to a fucking halt for like what felt like a 40-minute death scene. I know it could have like not been more than 10 minutes. I understand that. But it just kept going
Oh
and
my
going. And
God.
I'm just like, I need you to end. I need this over. I'm never watching this movie again because this happens. No matter what, this happens. And then, as a big fuck you, specifically to me, I mean, thanks Ryan Reynolds. I appreciate it. I really appreciate you being like, I'm gonna piss off Devon Decker right now. That never happened. Like that whole waste of my fucking time in the film doesn't happen. So only my time was wasted, not Cable's or Domino's or Negasonic Teenage Warhead. Like,
Damn it, I gotta be honest, man. So in the moment, right, like I was totally fine with all of this and loving every bit and eating it all up. Your despising it is making it 10 times funnier
good.
for
I'm glad. I'm
me.
very
Like
happy.
you sitting here redescribing it with disdain in your voice makes it even better than it was, and it was already delectable to me.
Good. I'm glad. I'm very glad. And I felt like the movie just tried too fucking hard. Like the
I
first
mean,
movie was like this beautiful, like it was like this beautiful thing where I'm like, I know you're trying, but like it doesn't feel like you're trying. This movie felt like they took the maximum effort thing and like, oh, and we're gonna try as hard as fucking possible. And I'm like, this is not fun for me.
you know what it felt like for me? Like I can totally understand where you could see all of that, like, because first of all, they were trying harder this time than they were the first time. The first time was something that they had been sitting on for years, something that that cultivated in them naturally, that they really wanted to do, and then that was such a big hit that they got right to work on Deadpool 2. Now the thing is that there's definitely stuff in this movie that I do feel like they were also good at its time, because jokes and stuff aside, talking about how the humor is kind of harsh, like, I'm sorry, but this Cable story was phenomenal. Like, they did a really great job of introducing Cable in a way that didn't get super convoluted. They didn't have to talk about Scott and all of that nonsense yet, but they didn't shut the door on any of it either, right? Like they introduced the character, and he was just this fantastic rendition of him. And fucking Josh Brolin twice this year has blown me away with Marvel characters. And like, I was thinking back on like after we had seen Infinity War, and like his version of Thanos, like we gushed about it already, phenomenal, right? And like the idea that he is able to play that character in that way, and all I could think of was, man, Mickey Rourke must be just fucking kicking himself for like whatever the fuck he had to do in Iron Man 2, right? And then here comes fucking Josh Brolin, and in 1 year plays two fantastic Marvel characters and does it well both times in two completely different ways. So anyway, so like the Cable stuff just was like clearly something that they were sitting on, but in terms of the jokes, in terms of like bringing in like the X-Force and all that sort of stuff, in terms of like trying to really lean into like what kind of weird like visual jokes they could do, it did feel a little bit more like slapdash this time around as opposed to the last one, and I think that's legitimately just because like this wasn't the script
yeah.
right. So like there's definitely that feel to it, but man, like I don't know, I feel like much when I saw The Hangover 2, and everybody kind of had these same feelings that like it just didn't have the same punch as the first one. A lot of stuff went on too long. A lot of stuff just seemed like it was rehashing what was already done in the first one. Like that, all of those sorts of like critiques, I get that. But honestly, like in terms of a Deadpool 2, I almost went in figuring like sequels are always the worst, right? Like I always have this feeling of like this sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach of just like, all right, number 2 was the one that they didn't plan to make. Number 2 is the one that they clearly the company is forcing him to make changes so that they get that money, right? Because they saw how much money they were capable of. There's no way that they weren't getting like that watchful eye this entire time they were making this film, like, and so I don't know. Maybe it was just an expectations thing for me going into a Deadpool sequel, but it was the way that they leaned into that and the way that they called out themselves in certain moments and stuff like that. I feel like they knew when those moments were happening, and they were just like committing. And that's the big thing for me, is that even when a joke didn't work for me, this group of actors, this group of writers and creators commits so hard to a bit that I just respect the hell out of it. Because that entire X-Force joke, like from the moment when he's like, I have to put a team together, to the moment when he realizes what a mistake that was, is so good. And from like a narrative standpoint, it's actually really interesting, because what ends up happening is the quote unquote family that he's looking for the entire movie, that they set up as being like his whole story in this movie, ends up being the one that he fights for and finds, not the one that he throws together, right? And I think that that's really like a funny like statement on the way that the Avengers came together. The Avengers came together because they had to, right? And we all love them, and that's all great. But Deadpool being like, it doesn't always work like that. Like, you can't just bring a group of people together just because they have to, and then boom, they magically get along, because that's what leads to things like Infinity War, right?
Well, Civil War, but yes.
Well, no, but I mean, but even Infinity War is like the logical outcome, because they were not all together fighting together. You know, imagine if they had not been separated at the beginning of Infinity War, how different things might have been, right? Like that whole idea that they didn't start in a good place at the beginning of that, and that's a huge thing, a huge problem throughout that whole movie.
That's actually true, because when Bruce Banner says we should call Steve, if Iron Man had called Steve Rogers at that moment, the Avengers would have assembled.
Steve would have been there,
yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
Like if there wouldn't have been a need to call him, he would have been right by his side, right?
Well, no, but even then, not even that he'd be like right by his side. It's right. Like, even if it was, you got to call Steve, because, you know, like, it's not like Iron Man and Captain America don't need to have breakfast every fucking Saturday. I don't need that. But, like, they should be texting at least once a day.
Yeah. But yeah, so, like,
saw this dog, thought of you. Hashtag language. I
saw a corgi, thought of Thorgy. There's Yeah, so there's this whole like joke in there about the idea of like him forcing this team together and then being completely unprepared for this, and like poor Peter. um,
Poor
but
Peter.
man, that like that bit was just so fucking funny to me, especially because Bedlam is the only one out of that group that I really like had any real attachment to, and attachment's not even the right word, where I was just like, all right, Bedlam's a character I could get behind them doing, especially with Terry Crews playing him. And then what happens, like, I was so unattached to those characters and so didn't care that the joke was just fantastic and perfect. Also, the reveal on Vanishing Man was phenomenal, by the way.
That was fantastic. I freaking loved that Vanisher was Brad Pitt. Especially, like, here's the thing. Deadpool 2 was really funny in meta. So, like, a lot of the stuff after the movie is fun, like, thinking about it afterwards. But during it, I was just like, I kind of want you to be over. Like, this kind of hurts. But, like, that Brad Pitt was going to play Cable and then had to back out because of schedule issues. Yeah. So he vanished from the film and then played the Vanisher. That's brilliant. Like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, man.
But then, like, so I said that whole thing to Will. I said the whole thing where, like, and then that death scene that I hated so much didn't happen. Then Will retorts back, and I don't know if this was to make me feel better or to, like, just turn the fucking knife. Because it could go either way, right? We have gift bags for both. Is that, like, well, the whole movie didn't happen. And he's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
He went back in time and saved Vanessa.
Yeah. Hell, man. Like, there's a lot that suddenly doesn't happen because now that he has time travel.
There has not been a Ryan Reynolds movie since 2011.
But it's funny that you get to this point because the one thing that I left that movie with was this hilarious feeling in the back of my head. Ever since Infinity War happened, before go back like a month before Infinity War comes out, and there's all this news that suddenly Fox is possibly going to be sold to Disney, and the idea of what that means for us in this nerd corner of the universe, like what does that mean for the whole X-Men universe coming into the MCU, and everybody starts throwing all these theories out. And one of the biggest running theories right now in like the MCU fandom community is the idea that with everybody dying at sorry, should I say spoilers for Infinity War?
We talked about it already.
Yeah, anyway. So, that was on a special episode. I didn't know if I needed to call it out.
Here's the thing. If you haven't seen Infinity War yet, it's already been dethroned. So, like, spoilers are fucking out there. The second the big movie falls, you could talk about it.
There you go. Well, so at the ending of Infinity War comes along and everybody's gone, right? And everybody's been talking about, well, now with Vision gone, like this could be Scarlet Witch's like whole like motivation to do the House of M storyline and like create this whole other world for everybody to keep them safe and all this other stuff. And all of a sudden, like that's how you bring everybody into the universe together, is essentially through her like overpowering the entire fucking universe with the Infinity Stones. The end of this Infinity War thing could be bringing the X-Men into the MCU universe. That would be phenomenal, right? And this is just like a floating theory, but it catches steam.
There's
and
no way
starts
that
talking
it's
about
gonna happen. I mean, like, I hate to be the fucking piss taker, Peter Ian Staker here, but like both these movies have been written and shot before that deal is announced.
I think Infinity War, though, even if it's just in the tag at the end, I think Infinity War hints towards the discovery of mutants. I think that you get something, even if they do something like a tag or something like that, because by this time next year, we're going to have all of this stuff ironed out. And even if it ends up just being like a Sony Spider-Man style deal where Fox still kind of has their hands in making the stuff, but they let the MCU kind of take care of the heavy lifting, like we're going to find out about that. But that stuff aside, the funniest thing about Deadpool 2 coming out of it for me was this idea, this realization that now that Deadpool has this ability to do the whole like time travel thing, which is like oddly actually very Deadpoolish if you go back and read some of his comics, with like his like what do you call it, his like,
well, he has the teleporter.
The teleporter, that's the word I was looking for. Right. It's almost like a version of his teleporter, just kind of like souped up. Now he can travel through time as well as space. But this idea that he could be the one to bring the two universes together was just this gorgeous thought to me. Like the idea that he's the reason that the X-Men are able to come into the MCU, because he literally like meta style like goes out of movie to correct it with this, and it would be totally, like, for me, totally on board. Like I would totally for Deadpool being the reason. Awesome. So this, if the entire movie, if the entirety of Deadpool 2 is just the setup for him to have the time travel ability in order to correct the whole X-Men universe nonsense, Fox universe nonsense, I'm in. I'm totally in for this movie.
So I think I appreciate all that you've said, and it's for a very simple reason, and it is 100% why I felt that I had a unique problem with Deadpool 2. And it's not that it's a unique problem, it's that it's a problem that I've never experienced. And that is because you brought up The Hangover Part 2, which I fucking love. I love The Hangover Part 2. But you're right, people were disappointed by The Hangover Part 2. And I've never been disappointed in a sequel. I've never gotten to that point where I'm like, oh, this was awful. Like, even Ocean's 12, which the first time I saw it, I didn't finish it. It wasn't one of those, oh, I'm excited about this, and then this happened to me. Usually I can measure my expectations. But Deadpool is a character that means so much to me that I did not do that this time. So I set myself up for failure. Yeah. But I will also give a shout out to the fact that, like, Tim Miller saying, I don't want to be, like, him not directing this movie because they wanted to make it with 3 times the budget, and him being like, no, I think this character works better as a smaller character with, like, smaller stakes, the way that we made this film. Like, I don't disagree with him on that either. I think that he would have brought a different subtlety to this movie that they didn't want to have. But I also think that if that subtlety had been there, it wouldn't have beaten Infinity War. So it's like 6 in one, half dozen in the other. Yeah. Really. And I mean, I can't be disappointed because there's going to be a Deadpool 3. And you're right. They're going to Hangover Part 3, Deadpool 3. Because they're going to actually have time.
Or at least do an X-Force film, right? And do like a real proper X-Force film now that they've got Cable and Domino, at least with him. Yeah. And God knows what else they add to that. Yeah. But like I loved the Colossus arc in this one. Like there was a lot of stuff in this one that just was really good payoff for anybody that had only ever seen really the first movie, right? Like if that's where you're coming at Deadpool from because you really love the MCU and you really love these Marvel movies, like I feel like Deadpool 2 is just a fucking treat because like especially after Infinity War, like having this as kind of like the breather afterwards, it was such a welcome thing for me.
Yeah, it's strange. I think I had zero expectations for Infinity War, and it was so good, and it made me realize just how good all of the movies leading up to it were. So then, like, this came out, and I'm like, wow, you were not up to the level, for me, as the other movies that I have watched from, like, the same source material. Yeah. So, like, you're right. It is a nice breather because, like, the stakes are relatively low and everything. But it didn't compare. And I was foolishly comparing them. Probably because of the deal and all that other stuff.
It's also really funny to me that your biggest issue with Deadpool is that it dragged on too much in like humor that just wasn't clicking for you, because it sounds exactly like the conversation that we've been talking about of your mom having of the action stuff in some of the Disney Marvel stuff going on too long and not clicking for her. And like it's this idea that like Deadpool is just leaning hard in the other direction and it's suddenly not working for you is really interesting for me. Like I wonder if it had leaned harder into doing some crazier action stuff and had not relied so much on stupid 10-minute long like death scene jokes. Like would that be a better film for you? And would that be the thing that would hit with other people? Because I think the reason that people go to Deadpool is to see a 10-minute long death scene like joke. Because
right,
especially after seeing
a 10-minute long death scene joke. I don't want to see a 10-minute long death scene trying to be funny for 10 minutes when like they nailed it at the beginning. His whole I hope the Academy is watching, and then the fucking Logan music comes in and I'm like awesome. And then like I'm looking at my watch and I'm like why am I looking at my watch? Why am I not laughing with everybody else? And that's the thing. And it's not like indie music syndrome or FOMO at all. It's literally just one of those things where like that's not my style of comedy or entertainment. Like yeah. I'm all about like the jabby jokes. Like make the joke and get the fuck out of there. You got to be like a pickpocket with your laughter.
Oh man, yeah. Well, there's plenty of that sort of stuff in there too, though. You know, like again, the Vanisher joke and stuff like that. Yeah. That is literally a split second. Those are the jokes
that work for me. Like Shatterstar's like coming in and being like, "I'm you but better," and I'm like, "That's fucking Shatterstar, nailed it." why, like, how's this going to end? And for him to end that way, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, there's two ways for this to end. Shatterstar's fucking cocky attitude gets him killed. Love it. Or fucking Deadpool just ends him. like you have one of those moments that would be a Deadpool moment. He steals it from him, and Deadpool just blows his head off. And they all look at him, and he's like, that guy, right?
Oh man!
But again, like that was a quick thing, and just all the Shatterstar blood and that was great. Like that's a moment that worked for me, and then like it just kept going, and I was kind of sad that Peter died. I'm not gonna lie. Plus,
but it's okay.
What?
It's okay. He goes back and saves Peter.
He goes back and saves Peter, and then so that in that timeline, Peter's okay, and then he goes back and averts that timeline, but timelines still happen. So like he did time travel the right way. That's what you do. You don't go back to the furthest point you want to fix. You go back incrementally and fix it like a Stitch in Time saving 9 sort of way. Yep, that's what I said. Which brings me to the last thing I want to talk about. Are we done with Deadpool 2? Do you have anything to add before?
No, just other than I'm sorry it didn't work for you, but I do hope that people go out there and see this thing. Although I guess like we talked about, everybody kind of already has because man, like
I'm really interested
to
see what it does monetarily this weekend up against Solo A, but B, I wonder if it's one of those movies that everybody went out and saw, and then that one viewing will be enough for them.
Yeah,
like I wonder if it will be that sequelitis where you have. Oh, the sequel did crazy. It's opening weekend, but then people really weren't feeling it. Like they didn't go back again.
Yeah, we'll see. I'll be very curious to see what happens too. But the other thing is there's definitely an element of this movie where they don't make movies like this, right?
They don't make R-rated.
They don't make R-rated comic book hero movies like that reference PG-13 movies you've seen.
That's true. They don't do that.
So I want I want this movie to succeed in some fashion because I don't want them to give up on this line, you know? It's because of movies like this that we're able to justify them going out then and making things like Logan, you know?
I mean, we're in a fucking renaissance right now because you have Deadpool coming out, getting the R rating, making the fucking money. And then you have Black Panther coming out. Well, you have Wonder Woman coming out, showing that a movie with a female lead protagonist, like whole cast, it fucking works. Like right now, all of the stereotypes about what can't be a fucking movie are getting ripped down, and that is
even
awesome.
even Infinity War, we talked about this. Like they don't make big blockbuster budget films that are like family movies that end the way that Infinity War does. That's just not what you do in your superhero movie.
Back. But what are you gonna do?
but even Empire doesn't have that bad of an ending. Really, at the end of the day, one character dies. Like
you're right.
And Han is frozen. But you know, knowing we know now that's nothing. Like it really does amount to nothing.
But
you
got to think about how you feel at the time. You got to think about how you feel like watching that movie in 79, right? When did that come out?
That's not half of the world being killed, including Black Panther, who had just been in the #1 film of all time.
Who had been in that.
The level to which Infinity War takes it is so far beyond the Empire Strikes Back that this is going to be the dark chapter that everybody now references. From here on out, whenever we talk about dark chapters in film franchises, we have to talk about Infinity War. We can't talk about anything else.
It's like Empire Who. You're right. You're not wrong. Okay, so here's my last thing, and it's a bit of a thought experiment.
Okay.
And so we're gonna get a little dark for like 1 minute. Okay. So here's a minute of darkness.
All right, strap in, everybody. This is the fun part.
This was inspired by my mother mentioning that someone from her class had passed away. Right.
Okay.
Cranston West class 76 passed away. Funerals on Monday. And like on their Facebook page, they put up the obituary. So I'm already in like a dark mindset when I'm thinking about this, right? And it got me started on a thought experiment, or like really we should do this as an experiment. And here it is, Sejohn. And that was less than a minute of darkness, right? Or maybe it's gonna get way fucking darker.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the darkness.
Put yourself back into high school, right? So 2005, Sejohn Sarowick, right?
Okay.
You are offered the opportunity to join a tontine.
Wait a minute. I have to really think about this. So I've got Green Day playing. I'm wearing
Oh my
cargo
god, you
shorts.
fucking asshole.
Definitely wearing cargo
You're
shorts
definitely
or
listening to
carpenter
American
shorts.
fucking Idiot right now. You dickhead. I
Let's
hated
see.
that album
Let's
so
see.
much.
I had a full head of hair and I knew I was going to lose it, so I made sure to grow it out as much as possible. Let's. All right, I'm there. I'm in there. Okay, and now there's a tontine.
So you're offered the opportunity. The school. It is a school sanctioned tontine.
Jesus,
fifty
is this how Battle
dollars.
Royale started?
No, like that's what I'm saying, right? $50, right?
Okay. Okay.
And you enter into it, and at the 50th anniversary, right? The 50th reunion, anyone who's still living gets a piece of it, right?
Okay.
So that's the thing, right? That's pretty good. That's pretty solid, right? If you had 300 people sign up for that, right? And at $50 a head, that'd be a starting of $15,000. So then if you add in 10 years, it would double every 10 years. You'd be looking at like a quarter or $500,000.
Oh, you mean every reunion we throw into
No,
the
no, no.
pot?
You don't even throw in more money. You put it into an account with interest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so like bank account interest, right? I mean, like it'd be good for the high school too, because the high school could just use that interest money, really, like to fund itself.
So really,
a little
this
bit.
this is just a
It's like
financial
fundraising. It's
reform plan for
financial
you.
reform, kinda as well. But the first question is, would you $50
I'm pretty sure
18-year-old
this.
Sejohn join this tontine?
I am pretty sure that this is the conversation that leads to the Hunger Games. At some point, then we split the entire thing into districts, and then they have to start fighting each other over the tontine. And at some point, the tontine's completely forgotten about, and it's really just about watching the poor kill each other. Look, man, I of course I would throw into that. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, of course, me too. Like, why not? Like, there's a chance for a payday, and like, it only sucks when like it's Helen Mirren and Bruce Willis and fucking Alan Arkin playing the older versions of us. Like leading up to the 50-year reunion, and people are getting killed.
And suddenly we have to work together to figure it out. And then at the end, it's just the three of us. And is this a comedy or is this a thriller? Because does it end with us all staring at each other, or does it end with us all walking off to the sunset together?
Exactly, but it'd be a pretty great fucking movie.
No, man, of course I'd throw into it. I mean, the best part about this thought experiment of yours, though, in this hypothetical, if this is me in high school, I'm definitely not throwing my own money into this pot. I'm definitely going to mom and dad with the permission slip. And I'm, Mom,
with
Dad,
the permission slip.
Everybody else is doing it.
It's like an investment in your future.
Yeah,
it's a potential. Like, I would stay in shape.
Are you saying that this would like vastly improve just people's lives in general?
I mean, like, I like again, it's a thought experiment. This is a thought experiment. I don't want. This is not the first purge that I am promoting. I am not saying like I don't want to be remembered as the guy who started the real world fucking Hunger Games. But I mean, I think on some level, like it'd be a cool thing that like because a tontine, for all intents and purposes, is just a death contract, right? It's like last person standing gets whatever our prize is.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily
so it doesn't
imply
necessarily
that you
need to end
other.
in murder. It's just saying like, yeah, we're all going to throw in on this.
Well, see, I think the way that you're really alleviating too much of that issue is by putting a time limit on it, not a death limit. It's not the last person standing. It's who's ever still alive in 50 years gets to split the pot. Now, I still might be encouraged to
I might be
make
encouraged
that pot as small as possible, shall we say?
Not to save someone from my class if I'm watching them drown. Oh, my share just went up by 5%.
Yeah. I think that this might have actually just been a vault in Fallout at some point, but yes, I think this is a fantastic thought experiment of yours, and I appreciate you bringing it to me. And now I'm going to be scared shitless of every person around me now.
Whoa,
Thank
come
you.
on, no, you're not in the tontine, are you?
Well, no, but the idea that there's this idea is out there is just giving me like goosebumps right now. Ugh.
No, the beautiful thing is that you choose whether you join or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's not. It's not like everybody like the real thing, right? So if this were a movie, you'd have like the fucking hardware store in town, right? Like just for the fuck of it, is like, oh, and S&D Hardware has agreed to sponsor this year's Tontine, so every student is entered and has their entry fee paid. So, like, the entire
Yeah.
graduating class of 2005 had it paid by S&D Hardware. You know, they're like, yeah, we'll put up the $16,000 to cover the whole class. And it's like,
Oh,
I didn't have a
God.
choice then.
Oh my God.
Also, you get that we own the hardware store, right? You know that you're the S and I'm the D. Also, we're still recording a podcast.
Oh man. Well, we should honestly put a clamp on this right now because I feel like this is going to be the next big horror franchise hit.
We should
Is,
write it. Well,
is
this is
Tontine.
our thing. I'm all
Right?
about it. I'm all about this. Sejohn, like seriously, let's fucking write this movie. I'm all about it.
And then make it like do it that they all signed up together in high school, and then at like 35, suddenly they start mysteriously disappearing, like, and somebody realizes what's happening, and then it becomes this like action horror thriller.
So
like,
the thing that I want, here's what I want to have happen if we end up making this movie, right? PJ fucking Byrne has to be in the movie. Who's like, well, yeah, but based upon it, like, you'd be looking at like a pot of. The amount of money that they would be getting with interest and everything. And then just as he finishes saying it, stabbed through the back with a fucking machete. I love watching PJ Byrne die. No offense, PJ Byrne. You're a fantastic actor, and I'm really happy that, spoilers, you survived a rampage. But, like, you just got that little puddle that I would love to see you dangling off the end of a machete. In Tontine from Say Productions.
Yes.
All right, so I think that's
TM.
S&D Hardware.
Yes. You're so proud of that joke.
It was, well, you know what really sucks is that there's a hardware store in Coventry that is a very similar name. So it was just me like, oh, I want to use their name, but I don't want to use their name.
No, you did a fantastic joke, Devon. Congratulations.
Well,
I think we should quit while you're ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to Deadpool to it. So if you want to yell at me about how I feel about Deadpool 2, you can get me on Twitter at Devon D. Decker.
And if you want to give me some more ideas for how people can die in Tontine the movie, you can get me at Siege versus the World.
And if you're PJ Byrne, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, William, it's your stage.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.